One of the most prominent Dalek emperors in the history of the Daleks is the emperor who reigned during the Time War, the leader of the Dalek race during their universe-shattering battle with the Time Lords. The exact identity of this emperor is unknown. According to some accounts, it is the Emperor of the Restoration, a prominent emperor from the post-Dalek Civil War era who united what was left of the Imperial Daleks with other rogue Dalek factions to create the Restoration Empire. Some other accounts suggest that, by the time of the last Great Time War, the Restoration Emperor had been assassinated and was replaced with his right-hand man, the Dalek Prime Strategist, who went on to rename the Restoration Empire to simply the Dalek Empire and wage a war against the Time Lords. The exact origins of the Dalek Emperor from the early days of the Time War matter little, however, as this emperor would be wiped out of existence by the War Valiard, who intervened in the Time War and eradicated the Daleks from the universe, save from a single survivor, the temporally sensitive Time Strategist. Both the Doctor and Davros experienced the resurrection of the true Dalek Emperor, perhaps even the first Dalek Emperor from the early days of the Daleks, above the planet Koska, thanks to a scheme enacted by the Time Strategist in a plot to restore the Daleks to the universe. This new Emperor Dalek, be he a resurrected form of a previous emperor or an amalgamation of different emperors from across the Dalek timeline, immediately assumed control of the entire Dalek Empire, superseding both the Time Strategist and Davros, and laid waste to Koska, reigniting the Time War. Perhaps as a reaction to the near-total eradication of the Daleks, and as a countermeasure to ensure their survival if such an event were to happen again, the Emperor Dalek created a secret order of Daleks known as the Cult of Skaro, whose purpose was to ensure the survival of the Dalek race by all costs. Arming them with advanced technology and imbuing them with the ability to imagine, the Emperor sent the cult to hide in the void between universes. The Emperor Dalek was informed of the Time Lord Project Revenant, a plan to resurrect fallen Time Lords to fight in the war by extracting their consciousnesses from the Matrix itself. This would lead to the resurrection of Rassilon, the ancient Gallifreyan leader, who brought a renewed vigour to the Time Lord war machine and also allowed the use of some of Gallifrey's most horrific weapons. It also led to the resurrection of the Master, but this played into the Emperor's scheme. By dissolving the foundations of Time Lord society through war, the Emperor ultimately weakened his enemies by isolating them from the universe and opening avenues to new kinds of temporal and dimensional warfare. He created the Nightmare Child, which led to the supposed final death of Davros. He delved into dying alternate timelines to procure Skaro degradations, malformed Daleks that could be used as foot soldiers. He ordered the Daleks to become more and more bold with their attacks, whittling away the Time Lord outposts and facilities scattered across the universe and granting him access to more and more powerful technology, some of which had been sealed away by ancient Gallifreyans due to their power. One of these things, the Cruciform, was taken by the Emperor at some point during the Time War thanks to a scheme concocted by the War Master, and allowed the Daleks to send a gigantic combined armada of every Dalek war fleet directly to Gallifrey, right on the Time Lord's doorstep. As a result, the Master fled the war in fear. Once at Gallifrey, the Emperor planned to annihilate the population and seize the world for the Daleks, making them the new Lords of Time. The Emperor ordered his fleet to mass around the planet and maximise their firepower to level every city and exterminate the civilian population. However, the first 13 incarnations of the Doctor were able to safely transport the planet out of the line of fire, reducing it to a backwater world in a pocket universe, but moving the Time Lords out of danger. The Dalek fleet was annihilated in the process, as every flagship was caught in their own raging crossfire of planet-killing weapons, and the resulting combined explosion obliterated the fleet and made it seem to the rest of the universe as though both sides had annihilated each other. The Emperor, however, survived. His flagship, being the most powerful and well-armoured ship in the fleet, was not destroyed, though it was heavily damaged. Falling through time, the Emperor emerged in the dark space on the edge of the Milky Way galaxy, and was able to slowly rebuild his forces by lying in wait and preying upon any passing human ships that came across his stranded flagship. Having gone mad due to the loss of his empire when he was on the verge of total victory, the Emperor began harvesting human tissue to grow a new army of Daleks, with the facilities in his flagship, and his madness soon turned to full-blown megalomania when he declared himself the god of all Daleks, in order to justify creating new Daleks from impure human tissue. He infiltrated Earth's systems and manipulated human history, first in the year 199909, in which he installed the Jagrafest to monitor and manipulate human media, and then again in the year 200,000 to fully take over Earth's systems and essentially enslave the planet through proxy, funneling all waste humans to his ship to be used as raw material to make new Daleks. In the year 200-100, the Emperor's flagship had been fully repaired, his forces of Daleks were back up to full strength, and his fanatical Dalek soldiers had constructed a new battle fleet. Positioned in his new throne room, surrounded by his restored Imperial Guard and leading an army of Daleks, albeit impure ones, the Emperor had created a near-perfect facsimile of his former empire, and his grand plan was on the verge of completion, but it was interrupted by the Ninth Doctor, who found the Emperor and vowed to destroy his army of Daleks when they kidnapped his companion, Rose. The Doctor pointed out the inherent hypocrisy of the Emperor's scheme. He had grown an army of Daleks out of human DNA, and imbued them with religious zealotry to hide the fact that he was contradicting the fundamental Dalek philosophy. The Emperor, at this point, was too far gone to care. He declared his title of God of all Daleks, and used that as his only justification, both for creating the new hybrid-Daleks and for the total extermination he had planned for humanity. The Emperor initiated an invasion of Earth, bombing the planet from orbit and sending his troops to exterminate the defenders of the game station, where the Doctor made his final stand by constructing a delta wave, which would kill everyone on planet Earth, but also wipe out the Emperor and his Daleks. The Emperor revealed to the Doctor that, as he believed himself to be a god, he was certain he would survive, and that he wanted to see the Doctor become a great exterminator just like him. The Doctor refused, and the Emperor ordered his extermination, but at that moment, the TARDIS returned to the Doctor carrying Rose, who had looked into the time vortex itself and, in the process, became the Bad Wolf entity. Using her powers, the Bad Wolf eradicated the Dalek army and reduced the God Emperor to dust, ending the Time War once and for all and scattering the words Bad Wolf back down her own timeline, ensuring that the death of the Emperor was a fixed point that would always occur. The Dalek Emperor from the Time War remains one of the most interesting Dalek characters in the history of the show, and certainly one of the most fascinating Dalek leaders. His origins are shrouded in mystery, as he is either a resurrected version of an earlier Emperor or a Gestalt Emperor created using the memories of each previous leader, making him perhaps one of the most intelligent and experienced Daleks in history. He was the leader of the Dalek Empire at its absolute height, the pinnacle of Dalek power in the universe, before falling further than any Dalek leader has fallen, being reduced to a scavenger picking over bones at the edge of the solar system. Having gone insane, yet still maintaining control over his own mind and the remains of his empire, the Emperor chose to take the Daleks in a whole new direction, building an army of religious fanatics who, despite possessing the same dogma as regular Daleks, were also instilled with a devout religious fervour that deified the Mad Emperor and also provided a twisted justification for the existence of hybridized Daleks grown from human DNA. Had this emergent Dalek army survived, it would have likely gone on to become one of the most brutal and violent Dalek empires in history, but ultimately, and like many other examples of Dalek leaders, the God Emperor Dalek was brought down by his own hubris. His baseless belief in his own immortality and superiority led to his destruction, and this is without a doubt a fitting end for the so-called God of all Daleks. What do you think of the God Emperor Dalek? Let me know your thoughts on this really interesting and iconic Dalek leader in the comments below.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to
Dalek Bumps.